All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Picard Review Show here on the Triple S League. My name is Ash. I'm here with Saib as always, and today we're
Hello.
looking at episode 7 of the show of the first season of Star Trek Picard, called Nepenthe, named for the planet where most of the episode takes place. Really interesting story because we got some classic or some popular Next Generation characters making a recurrence in this episode. Of course, it's no big spoiler. I mean, we knew they were coming. I saw pictures of them, on the set of the show before the first episode even aired. But we got.
They were. It was in the trailer too, so it's
Oh,
like,
were they?
yeah. Well, Riker was.
Yeah. So Will Riker and
Um,
Deanna Troi back with Picard for at least one episode. I'd love to see them some more. I'd love to see them again. I'd love to see them get more involved in the story. Don't know if that's what the actors want to
I
do or
think
what
it's.
they.
I think it's likely. I think
Yeah.
it's very likely. He dropped a line. Maybe not Troy. Which is. I don't know. Maybe they'll both show up. It could be that they both show up. She might show up as a civilian. Um, her status in Starfleet wasn't mentioned. His was. It was very clear that he was still on active, on some kind of an active roster, just not
Yeah,
not on
active
currently on
active
duty.
reserve. Yeah,
Yeah, he's on active reserve. So this means that potentially there is space for him to come back. And I keep saying, my wish is that um, that CBS sells this to Seth MacFarlane,
oh, we're not going down this
who
road again, are we?
then utilizes this whole thing to reboot, an official series, and uses this show as a bit of a tie-in to how he wants to take the direction afterwards, because there is a lot of things that need to be addressed, and the show is addressing some of them. So I think
Hmm.
that is my personal best dream, is that this is used as sort of a leaping off point for a new series,
Yeah.
new ship series run by Seth
Well,
MacFarlane. I think
clearly
it would be.
somebody else needs to be in charge of Star Trek. Somebody else needs to be in charge of Star Wars. Somebody else needs to be in charge of pretty much all of the beloved franchises from our younger years. It's
Yeah.
kind of ridiculous how things are going. Anyway, welcome to everybody who is in the live chat. We got Robin Green, we've got Shua82, WFC, a few other people watching. So yeah, definitely let us know what you thought of the episode throughout our broadcast here today. Yeah, give us your thoughts. Robin Green says, "Did you like Riker in this episode?" I really did. Yes, I absolutely did. And we got to see sort of more of his out of uniform personality, which was really great.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Shua says, "I wanted the Riker maneuver." Well, maybe we'll see it at some point. Oh, do you mean like the Riker, the stepping over the back of the chair thing? Um, yeah, it's too bad they didn't give us that too much, but Riker was awesome. It was nice to see Deanna Troi again, although she looks nothing like herself, which I remember saying to you, Saib, when we saw Miranda Sirtis at a convention recently. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I could not believe how different she looks from her
Well,
days
I
on
mean,
the Next Generation. And then here in this show, she looks exactly like she looked at the convention. So yeah, that's just how she looks now.
hmm
So anyway, all right, let's just.
Well, I mean, she is 64.
Well, yes, she's older.
So
Granted.
I mean, she's 64. She's almost she's getting close to 70, and I think she's aged well. I think she's
I'm not saying she looks
um,
bad. I'm just saying
yeah,
she
no,
doesn't
no,
look the
no.
same. She just doesn't look
And
the same.
she really was a strong actor in this episode. Like again, say what you will about the whole planning, the CBS, the direction, all this kind of stuff, the story, the direction, all that kind of stuff. Her and Riker, they pulled off a phenomenal job in their acting. Again, might not enjoy the direction of the show, but I felt as if they were doing a perfect job in their roles and a perfect acting job as I have seen most other people play. So this is a reminder as to why they are still some of the best actors for Star Trek, and their story was a little sad here in this episode. They've gone through some heartbreak over the years, and this is like, it's like, I just look at this and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't actually mind a show about them in the future,
A show about
about the Rikers.
maybe
The
focusing
Rikers
on maybe a few years down the road, focusing on their daughter who was introduced in this episode. That'd be cool. Yeah.
because I mean, just frankly put, I mean they were really well done in this episode. It's 100% really well done.
I agree. Yeah, they felt like the characters that they used to portray, albeit out of uniform, off duty, living kind of semi-retirement, and but Riker just seemed right at home in his sort of country estate here, cooking. Just obviously he's kind of a bit of a hunter trapper kind of a person. He's passing those skills onto his daughter, and just living this rural, simple country life. But also, he's.
By the way, we're gonna point this out. Very much looks like Canada.
it may have been
like not the cold Canada, but his location, the world that they picked, kind of comes off as a little Canada-ish, and I really like that. This was a nod to the fact that Riker is Canadian, both in the show and in real life, which is another unique little thing that they've done with the show from time to time, and also really generally like the house, like everything. Again, storyline not necessarily where I wanted it to go in this particular episode. Lots of like pitfalls and running around in circles and stupidity from characters who should know better, should be better.
Yeah, Riker's from Alaska.
Yeah,
not Canada, but I mean it's pretty much the same as far as the biome.
No. Riker has made it. For some reason, that part of Alaska was referenced to be Canadian at some point.
Oh, it's like owned by. Oh, in the future is owned by, as part of Canada. Oh, okay, interesting.
I'm going to look this up because I will feel bad if I'm wrong, but
Hunter Trapper Riker, was he trapping pepperoni and hunting onions for all that pizza? No, I mean they had a garden where they were growing their own food, and the sausage was from that rabbit-like creature that his daughter caught, and presumably kind of got it. So he's not using a replicator to make all this stuff. He's living off the land for the most part. Although, obviously he's also his cabin's pretty high tech. We see the security measures he's got in place, that kind of a thing.
Okay. No. So it was mistakenly stated that Riker is Canadian, and he later on clarifies that he's from Alaska, not from Canada.
Yeah.
So I remembered that only partially. There is a scene in which they refer to Riker as Canadian.
Oh, okay.
And then later on,
it's clarified that no, he's not.
He corrects the statement. So that I remember the scene where the dude's like, "Oh yeah, he's Canadian," and later on he goes, "No, sorry, So yes, I suppose
he was probably lying because who wants to be from Canada? But anyway, there's one more comment I want to read. And Enamike Phoebe says, I like how Soji went full Johnny Five and read that book of the made-up language that Riker's son and daughter spoke. I wonder if that will be of some use. Very. She now knows this made-up language. I wonder if that'll come into play down the road. Also, kind of a callback to Data of course, being able to read a book in a matter of seconds. All right. Well, let's start diving into the actual scenes of the episode. So it starts out with another flashback. This time not going back years, but just going back a few weeks to Dr. Oh shoot, why am I forgetting her name? Girardi, Dr. Girardi here.
Yeah.
Doing the having this meeting with Commodore O, who is is a Vulcan and who is some sort of security. I believe she's in charge of security at Starfleet headquarters, something to that effect. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, she's evil. Or at least she's in league with the Romulans somehow in this whole this whole initiative to destroy synthetic life forms and get rid of them.
I think she's an incredibly illogical, crazy person. I don't know, maybe
an illogical Vulcan.
Yeah,
that is not logical.
Vulcan. I'm quite serious. I was expecting. Oh yes, we discovered something deep and dark, and then she just passes on a bunch of like apocalyptic scenes, and then her shooting herself in the head. So it's like, okay, it sounds to me like you're basing your entire concept on fear. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks like that Commodore O has forgotten the first tenet of being in Starfleet, which is that differences can unite people.
Well, clearly she's a mole within Starfleet. Clearly she's
looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, she's subverting she's subverting Starfleet, and
well, in this case, I think what they might be setting up is that Starfleet is in league with the Romulans, and they're getting the Romulans to do their dirty work, or that the Romulans and the Vulcans originally were separated by an AI, and that this is a memory that's been passed down from Vulcan to Vulcan to Vulcan to Vulcan and Romulans, and the one thing that they share is their hatred of AI. That also might be true. We didn't really ever see very many Vulcans on I mean, aside from obviously the great ones, but we didn't really see very many of them during the TNG era. And there, more lore has come out since then. They don't use they don't even have basic AIs. Like they don't have like ship AIs like Star Trek does, like the computer, because they have an aversion to it. Apparently, neither do the Romulans. Neither do the Vulcans. So it seems to be heading in that direction. So I think Robin, I think you're true, or I think your statement's accurate. I think she is very much a zealot. So yeah.
And Mike Phoebe says, I was more surprised that Agnes was so gung-ho to do whatever O wanted her to do just from seeing the visions. Yeah.
So they've either got to elaborate on this and say that there's far more information transferred than what was shown, or somehow they need to elaborate on this, because this little scene here, I was anticipating it, and I was severely let down. I was like, what, 30 seconds of a flashback or flash forward or something from some person who's coming across as a zealot, maniacal, crazy person who hates a different species just cause.
Yeah, but Agnes doesn't. Agnes doesn't know that, and
well, no, I think she's a doctor. She's a doctor who dated and has made her entire life's work something that that she's just accepted in a moment that, oh yeah, all synthetic life is evil. It's like, I feel like we're going down the Mass Effect storyline here. I think, which wouldn't shock me. It's not like CBS hasn't ripped off the entire past couple seasons of Discovery directly from somebody else's science fiction work. Um, at least there's a lawsuit pending about it. So not pointing fingers, but kind of pointing fingers that they like to steal other people's work, because they're not the people who write the sci-fi for this current show are like, there's basically a ton of Game of Thrones and The Expanse in here. That's essentially all that we're seeing is The Expanse and Game of Thrones with a veneer of sci-fi. And so far it's been okay-ish. But it's starting to, like, now they've incorporated a giant storyline from Mass Effect. If not Mass Effect, I mean, it's not just Mass Effect. The Orville just had this as their main, like, plot point in their current season. So how and why they've decided to go down this road again and really apparently just copy somebody else is really disturbing. I was expecting more from the scene. I did not get it. I rolled my eyes and I went, for real. And then I
Well,
sighed,
again,
and then I was
like you said, there may be more information that we're not getting here. I mean,
yeah,
it seems to me
hopefully.
that Dr. Agnes got, she received a ton of information in a suppressed amount of time, and we're not privy to all of it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the case, and more of it will come out. But I think my obvious question, if I were in her shoes, would be, well, how do you know what's going to happen? I mean, Vulcans have these telepathic abilities, but as far as I know, they don't have the ability to see the future. So this is what Commodore O thinks is going to happen. But yeah, the fact,
something that has happened in the past,
right, and she's
she
showing her, yeah, exactly.
that has been remembered, down through the ages. But there was a scene of her, like, shooting herself in the head or something like that. So it was kind of like, wait, what? Like, how? Okay, are we looking at a flashback, or we're looking at a flash forward, or it just left, as far as just the general reaction, it was incredibly disappointing. It was incredibly disappointing.
Fair enough.
So
I thought it was. It did seem. I mean, it was very abrupt. Agnes does seem immediately trusting of O, and very. I guess she must have been shown something pretty traumatic and convincing. But again, how she knows that she can trust that info is an open question still. We'll have to see. So, O takes off her sunglasses. You grabbed this screenshot for. Mm-hmm. Was there a reason you grabbed this?
Not really.
Screenshot?
Not really. I thought it was kind of cool. I was like, oh yay, taking off sunglasses, because at least they've referenced that they're there, which I don't think we've seen anybody wear sunglasses for style ever in the history of the entire show. I mean, I distinctly remember a lot of, like, beach scenes and, like, tropical paradises, and I cannot remember any of the characters ever wearing sunglasses. I think, yeah, I just can't. I went over a couple. I tried to find it, and for some reason, no. So I just threw that in there.
There's also the possibility. Well, prior to this, I had flirted with the possibility that she's not actually Vulcan, but then she did the mind meld thing here. So unless that was, faked in some way, I guess it's very it does seem like she actually is Vulcan. And a question here in the chat: can Vulcans lie when showing things to someone through a mind meld? The whole thing about Vulcans lying is a tricky one. Because I do remember it being stated before in TNG. I remember it was actually Data who said he was narrating. I think it was Data's Day, and he said, "Yeah, Vulcans can't tell lies." But then there was an episode of Voyager where Tuvok explained it differently, or somebody explained it differently, that they actually are capable of lying, but they're not. It's not ever useful or something like that, or it's like they can tell their some there's some qualifier on what constitutes the truth and what constitutes a lie. So I'm a little confused about all that. But it does seem like for Commodore O to be so deeply embedded into Starfleet, but also be working with the Romulans, she must be capable of some form of deception.
Yeah, I mean, she must be. And again, I gave my reasons why I think this is a ridiculously stupid plot point. I think it is an absolutely ridiculously stupid plot point. Let me just reiterate that one more time. The fact that you have spies and people that are dealing in secrets to other governmental forces in the upper echelons of Starfleet is utterly and completely a total suspension of any kind of a proper immersion to me. It is so stupid. Not only do they have an enormous amount of technology to scan people's backgrounds, to detect people's lying, I mean, and you could maybe say that, yeah, but then there's just as equal amount of technology that prevents somebody from being caught in a lie, and we've already kind of seen that. So, but the point of this is that they just fought a war where they had infiltrators replace the top people in Starfleet, and nobody caught on until, like, in some cases they didn't catch on at all. In other cases, like, these people almost destroyed, you know, the entire Starfleet from just one person working from within. And this is not something that they avoided in other scenarios. In TNG, there was a replacement effort. In a couple of times in some other episodes, there were replacement efforts. The fact that they are so susceptible to this is mind-boggling, and I cannot logically put together a way that they would be stupid enough to allow this to continue to happen. Like, you have somebody in your government who's spying and who's feeding the information out in a bad way. How can you let this happen again? Didn't you just fight a war over this? Haven't you had the ability to, like, look and cover yourself? Like, come on. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
Well, I mean, it is a big organization. There's a lot going on, and like you said, there's technology to counter other technology, to counter the security technology, to counter the anti-security technology. Like,
yeah, and I'm not saying Phoebe in the chat mentions that, yeah, changelings also did it to the Klingons, the Cardassians, etc. Yes, they did. But the point is that they won that war. At least they would have some capability. Like they had a lot of those people replaced before they knew what was happening. It is a classic plot device. Yes, it is. It is something, but it's like how inept is this? Is the Federation that they can't seem to, like, get a handle on this? Like it's been twice in, like, 30-40 years that they've almost been completely destroyed by an entity that's, like, replacing them from within.
well, I don't think this is necessarily
well,
that same scenario either, though. Commodore O, like, she's probably been a Starfleet officer for a long time, and has either, like, more recently, sort of become a turncoat within Starfleet, or maybe was a plant all along. It's hard to say. But again, if like you said, they're still recovering from the war they had at this point, the Dominion War. So, I mean, things could be in disarray from that as well. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess we'll move on from that. But yeah, so they she invokes the mind meld here, and Dr. Girardi sees all these things, which we've already talked about. She sees, you've got some of the scenes here. And again, the question becoming, how does she, is this a flashback, or is this what she thinks is going to happen? In which case, how does she know what's going to happen?
Even Vulcans have lens flare. That's why I took this one. There is so much lens flare in this episode where there was not a way, or it's like seemingly this was not possible, but for whatever reason, lens flare everywhere.
Well,
So
maybe that's why she was wearing the sunglasses. The future
I've
is
taken
just
a couple of way too bright.
the future is just full of lens flare. All right, now we're back on Captain Rios' ship, and outside shot of it here. So they're caught in a tractor beam from the Borg cube with the reclamation project on it, and they're trying to bust free. I can't actually remember how they got free of this, but they're yelling at each other.
They let them go.
He's right. They let them go, but then why do they think? Did they? Yeah, they let them go because
it's later in the scene. It's later in the scene.
Narek is going to be tailing them, so they let them go because they want to try and follow them to Picard. And then we've got Narek's sister basically confronting Hugh and
executing Borg.
Lines up all these XBs and executes them, but she won't kill Hugh because he's protected by their treaty with Starfleet, or with the Federation rather. So yeah, it's this is a pretty profound scene. I mean,
it was kind of sad. It was kind of weird. Yeah, it was really bizarre. You wonder again how, I don't know. I've never understood like getting lined up and getting shot kind of mentality of some people. Is like, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna line up here and let them shoot me. It's
well,
like
if you try and
do, I'm only an advanced combat droid with enhanced reflexes and I mean, if it was, 7 of 9 numerous occasions was able to take on much bigger and badder people, and some of these guys looked like they were capable of putting up a pretty good fight, and there was like 5 Romulans they already outnumbered them. It's like, if you're ever in a scenario where like people are lining you up and they're slowly shooting you one by one, just as a general like point of logic, they're not going to let you go. Like, they're just not going to let you go. They're never going to let you go. There was no sign that they were treating this in ruthlessly controlling their lives on a day-to-day basis. There's no evidence that routine wall executions were a thing. So how they were so calm about this, and then how they were just like, well, maybe they'll let us go if we just stand here real quiet. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
well, depending on what stage of recovery these XBs were in, I mean,
true.
Maybe they didn't know what was going on, really.
Yeah. So I mean, just in general, like in whichever way, shape, or form, however this played out, I found it quite insulting. And I didn't really like it. I really didn't like any of the Borg stuff that happened in this episode. Yeah, just not something that I was. It's lots of like. It's like Michael Bay wrote this stuff, and he was told no explosions. You have to do this entirely off of plot, and so he just used a whole bunch of tropes that didn't really make a lot of sense. Made the characters behave and act in ways that were extremely stupid and dumb. But okay, sure.
Well, I mean, they, again, like, Did they know what was going on? Were they trying to protect
Yeah.
Hugh by, like, if they resisted, they thought Hugh would get shot? Like, there's also not everybody in it. Not every character is 100% logical either. So it's one of those things. But yeah, she goes full on Game of Thrones with the whole lining them up and shooting the thing anyway. Hugh doesn't give up Picard, and it's just amazing how many people wind up dead because of Picard's mission now. It's kind of depressing from that point of view.
It's like, yeah, they're really starting to get the body count up here. Which, I mean, it reminds me again of Game of Thrones so much, but like just without the, I've seen a couple of shows try to emulate Game of Thrones. It's like, hey, this is Game of Thrones style. We killed off 5 actors in the first episode. It's like, that's not what made Game of Thrones good.
No, there's a point where it gets really.
You have to get us to like the characters first. It's like I've seen shows where it's like they kill off a character really on, and then everybody says, "Oh, super sad about losing this person," and I'm like, I had no emotional investment in this person whatsoever. Why would I care? Game of Thrones, I had like several seasons to grow attached to certain characters before they died brutally. It's like, that's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's making an emotional impact, and then there's just being gratuitous with it too.
Yeah,
I stopped watching The Walking Dead because I was just like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. They're just trying to make me angry now with who they're killing off. Mm-hmm. It's absurd, and then replacing them with characters that I don't give a crap about. But anyway, yeah. So moving on, Narek gets into his little ship to chase after Captain Rios' ship, and we know also from that scene with Commodore O earlier, they're tracking Agnes Jurati. She had her eat that tracking device, so she had to chew it, which is kind of funny. I don't know why.
It broke down into like molecules and went throughout her body. So basically, she was being,
so somehow they can track this particular signal. They can track these few molecules from light years away, which is bizarre. But anyway,
again, I think we're getting ahead of like we're either getting ahead of or not being able to it's again more frustration. It's like, if they have the technology to get somebody to eat a thingy that makes them basically trackable across multiple star systems, then, I mean, just out of curiosity, wouldn't this be standard issue to scan for? And I say this because I think more and more I'm starting to think Rios is an incompetent buffoon, and he really showed that he was an incompetent buffoon in this particular episode. Like, his stupidity, I'm starting to understand why his former SO died, because it appears to me as if his commanding officer was like, "Hey, we're about to do this really dangerous thing. I need you to cover our escape." And he was like, "Oh, you got it, Captain. I will totally cover your escape." And then the dude's like, doing his thing, or she's doing her thing, or whoever it ends up being, and they're like, "Okay, we need you to do the thing now." And he's like off, not even in the room. He's off, like, romancing somebody, or running up and down the hall looking at like a cute bunny rabbit or something. He's just not there. And then they all die, and then he's like, "Oh no, I failed them because of my generalized stupidity and incompetence."
I don't see that at all. He's not stupid and incompetent. He, like,
there's
so much potential technology. I mean, there's the question of like, do they even know that this technology exists? Do they have the technology to scan for it? I mean, yes, you do have to suspend disbelief a little bit, but also this is a world where you have matter transporters. So
we don't really see that in this episode, or like we see the counter to this in this episode at the same time as we see how Reese is apparently an idiot. So, anyways, this
Well,
we'll get to the point and I'll show you. So,
all right. Well, all right. So anyway, um, what scene was this? So anyway, we're back on Rios' ship, and
she's having a panic attack because she wants to go home. I just want
oh
to go
yes, that's
home.
right. That's right. Yes.
I just want to go home. Just tell them that we want to go home and that we don't mean any harm. And he's like, looks over and is like, why would they let us go? Letting us go would be us just asking them, hey, please let us go. We don't know what you guys want. They're totally not going to believe that, and would probably be extremely suspicious if they did that. That's the face that he gave her. That's
Yeah.
the face that he gave her. All right. So
Right.
it's like, okay, great. A few minutes later, they get released, and he goes into warp, thinking, "Oh, see, guys, we totally did it."
Yeah,
It's like,
but he's able to figure out that somebody is following them, even though Narek is cloaked.
oh, the person following them. That I get like, I'll get to that scene too. I was really annoyed with this episode.
So
I was really annoyed with everything off world from the world that like the Picard and all that stuff. Great.
yeah,
Everything that's going on off of that world right now, horrendous. I'm constantly face palming, thinking to myself, my God, how have these people managed to live up to this point? Like, I really don't understand. Like, they're really, really incompetent in every way, shape, or form, period. It's like, oh, good Lord. Okay, next.
all right,
Next.
yeah. So then Romulan Legolas comes out and helps Hugh up, and so anyway, he's going to help Hugh now. And then so they escape from the Borg cube. A nice shot of the Borg cube.
So Reus has gone to warp, and then immediately following this,
Yeah, Narek follows after him.
yeah,
And there he is there. All right. So here's a shot of the planet Nepenthe, and
it's very green.
it's very
Lots of mountains, lots of clouds. So yeah, kind of
very
cool.
Earth-like.
Actually, not even in the slightest. Well, I mean, like,
What do you
sort
mean
of.
not in the slightest?
To me, it looks like the whole of the planet looks as if it is a mountainous, like, cool climate with lots of like high rocks and mountains and stuff like that. Very little ocean. So that is not anywhere in the ballpark of what Earth it has for its average landmass. That's
You
a
can't
moot
even
point.
see the other side of the planet. There's no way you could know that. Okay.
No, but
Anyway,
you do see from the north all the way to the southern poles. So I'm being a dick. I know. It's just, to me, it's like I don't see Earth there. I see like a
well,
temperate.
clearly it's not Earth. I said it's Earth-like in that it is visually similar. And like you get to the shot here, and I mean it looks. I mean,
So
obviously,
they have mountains that form these giant like curved columns, which is great. I play with a mod in Stellaris that has this as a world type. And I can't remember what it's called, but it's where like a lot of the mountains form like giant like snaking chains and stuff. And I just added this to my book about a month and a half ago. So I was like, oh great, now people accuse me of adding to the book posted. It's like no, I actually came up with this first, okay, more or less. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I like that it's not just a normal planet. I like that they added that additional touch of coolness there. So cool, great, awesome.
yep. So it's we learn later it's this planet where it has very fertile soil, and the soil actually has regenerative
Regenerative.
properties. I can't speak today. So they beam in. Picard and Soji beam in and encounter
They meet
Riker
this
and
girl.
Troy's daughter.
Yeah, so they meet this girl and she's like pointing a bow and arrow, and then she's like, "But I'm a pacifist. But I just want you to know that I could kill you if I wanted to, but I'm a pacifist, so I won't." Which is a really weird conversation to have with somebody.
She's well, it's
super weird conversation.
it's a super weird conversation. She's like she's an idealistic child. Like we all had ideas. We all had weird ideas like this. Like I'm a this, I'm a that.
I did not like her right off the bat. It was kind of funny. Picard had a great line. She pointed the bow and arrow at his heart, and he was like, "Oh, just so you know, my heart is made out of pure
Duratanium or whatever it's called." Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, you should probably aim at my head, and then she aimed at his head. But the whole time, she knows who he is, and she likes him. So I guess it's like, okay, weird, but whatever. All right, moving on.
Maybe she hasn't seen him in a long time.
Or she hasn't seen him in a while. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So Soji's going through an existential crisis because she's, realized her whole life was fabricated. She's synthetic. She doesn't know what's real, what's not real. She doesn't know if Picard is actually trying to help her, if he's got some kind of ulterior motive and agenda, if this is even part of the same plot that Narek was involved with. So she's struggling with this through the whole episode, which is really good. I really liked where they went with her character in this episode, her mistrust of everything, her not immediately trusting Picard. And Picard was kind of a dick in this episode, not going to lie.
It was a little bit of a dick.
He was kind of... Which, is okay. It's like... It seemed
this is why he doesn't like children. This is why we're just seeing this, come out about him. He's not great with kids. He really isn't.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Deanna Troi. Working in her garden. Happy to see Picard. She was never one of my favorite characters on Next Generation. She always creeped me out a little bit, but I don't know. I reacted better to her in this episode. She seemed like less creepy than I remember her from TNG. Of course, I was a kid at the time. Now, her...
well, psychics always come off as weird.
Yeah. So her empathic abilities, she has this interesting experience when she meets Soji that she's good at reading people in general. She can see, like, to her, Soji appears human in her reactions and her emotions and things, but she can't sense any emotions from her. So that was an interesting thing they threw in. Shua, you figure she doesn't know what being a pacifist means. Yeah, and even if she doesn't know what a pacifist is, or even if she knows what the word means, she probably doesn't understand all the implications of it. Like, it's the end. The idealism of children is, I don't know, I find quite endearing. It's like my little niece who, every other week, she's a teenager now, and every other week she decides she's going to be a vegetarian. And then 5 minutes later is eating meat. Like, kids that get these ideas that they don't fully understand, and I don't know, it's rather endearing in my opinion. But Robin Green says
while she says this, she is currently carrying the body of a rabbit, which, by the way, the rabbits in this world, at first I was like, oh, hey, look, a cute little rabbit. Then we find out later on that these rabbits have venom sacs.
They do, and you have to remove them before you eat the rabbit, or you're going to spew black
Everybody
bile
dies.
and die, as we find out.
This is really funny. Really funny.
So, Robin Green, you found Troi endearing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a personal thing.
I did.
It was
I did.
It was I don't know. It's one of those things. We all identify with different characters. And then Mr. Riker himself. I love the intro scene with him cooking and the camera pans in behind him, and he's like, quit yelling and stuff, like, just, I don't know. He's like, he seems like he'd be a really fun dad or grandpa to have, like, yeah. It's, Riker was always one of my favorite characters, interestingly enough.
Yeah. He's a great personality.
Yeah. I know a lot of people love Riker, of course, but he was definitely always one of my favorite characters. So it was great to see him in the scene. It was great to see him sort of in his element. A log cabin with sort of a traditional kitchen and, cooking his own food, living off gardening and farming and whatever. Just seems like him. Like it's, yeah. I really liked the progression of these characters. I liked seeing where they ended up together. They've had some heartbreak, but they've also, they seem to have a happy life going on at the same time. So, it felt real. It wasn't, oh, they just flew off into the galaxy and lived happily ever after. There's been ups and downs for them as they've gone through life. So, yeah, it was really neat to see.
Robin's correct that the Venom Sack reference is actually kind of does feel a little Monty Python-ish. I thought that was kind of funny.
So yeah, nice reunion between Picard and Riker, and he realizes right off the bat that Picard's in trouble, needs somewhere to stay. And this is one unfortunate thing. It seems like Picard is re-encountering all of these old friends and colleagues because he needs something. And yeah, it seems he seems like I don't know how I like this aspect of his character. I guess in some ways it seems realistic that, I mean, he even addresses it here. He kind of went off by himself and was waiting to die, and now he's got a purpose again. But yeah, it's like Picard just doesn't know how to have personal relationships. He needs some function for interacting with people.
Well, I mean,
even though the
thing that he spent his entire life on did reject him, and the ideals that he thought that they stood for. I can understand why he went into this like isolation bit and why he decided to, do this. It made total sense to me because he does come across as somebody who's they ran into a wall and realized that everything wasn't the way that they thought, and they just kind of went into a corner and pouted. I get that. I like this scene here because as soon as like Riker figures out that he's in trouble, he puts the shields up because his cabin comes equipped with a shield,
which is hilarious. Cool. It's
Then he puts up the scanning devices, and then he says, and any other problems, and he's like, oh, might want to scan for stealth. It's like, all right, scan for stealth. This is all stuff that, like, you can tell Riker's smart. Riker knows how to defend his home because he's got a shield unit, which probably encompasses like a massive area around the whole property. Then he's got the ability to like scan for every detectable possible threat that could be coming. And he keeps these continuous scans up so that he knows so that he can face down these problems, and so that he can, establish a defensive line, so to speak. He knows he knows. He doesn't know exactly what's coming, but he takes every precaution possible. And why can't Riaz do this? Why can't he set up a basic system of like, hey, holograms, whenever you encounter somebody murdering somebody else on the ship, I would like to know personally, not something that you report after the fact or that we have to dig up in your sensors, that you immediately react to me. How fast can a computer move? Way faster than humans. The minute that the EMH realized that she was poisoning him, he should have sent a 10-page essay as a backup to dude's personal computer. Should have alerted him immediately upon seeing her disengage the thing keeping him alive. All this stuff that just makes me think Riaz is a complete idiot. He's a complete buffoon. He has no idea how to run a ship. He has no idea how to do his job, and he for sure doesn't know how to save anybody that's under his command, as we've already seen. And meanwhile, you got Riker here. First thing, all right, put the shields up, get the scanners running. Any other important information that I needed to know? All right, do that. Also, that backup scan. It's like, geez, dude knows what he's doing. This guy knows what he's doing. The other guy, he's an idiot. How he survived up to this point. I'm fairly confident that when he lost his entire ship.
Okay, but the fact that he didn't account for a rare circumstance occurring on his ship doesn't make him a complete idiot.
This is not something that you it's not a rare. Yes, it's a rare circumstance because at this point in technology, most people wouldn't do it because it's just you're far too easily tracked. In order to successfully rob a bank these days, like old school style, you have to literally either steal less than a couple $1,000s, or you have to not have a face or not have any kind of a face that's spotted by any kind of a camera technology, not have any kind of an online presence, not own a home, not own a cell phone, not own basically anything. You have to basically be living off of the grid, bouncing from city to city as often as quickly as you can, constantly swapping out vehicles, stolen vehicles, and all this other stuff to just even have a chance to get away with a big haul. Like that's the kind of difficulty you run in today. So that's why bank heists are basically unheard of, because like 98% of them are solved within like a few weeks. Like that's huge. You don't rob a bank unless you're crazy these days. So in this level of technology in this world, yeah, you don't go around murdering people because the chances of you being caught are so high. But again, it doesn't mean that you just like stop using basic like safety protocols. This would be a basic safety protocol that, again, this isn't somebody being trained for something that never happens. This is a robot, a computer, who has every possible safety routine already pre-programmed into their basic algorithm, unless Riaz rewrote them and wrote them to be complete idiots. But
I mean, like as we discussed on the previous episode, though, the EMH isn't necessarily recognizing that there's a murder taking place, and the EMH is designed as a supplement program, which is it is subject to human commands, which is why it can be deactivated when she just tells it to turn off. Now, why it did seem convenient in the next episode that nobody activated the EMH, and it becomes active at the end of this episode, but I don't know if something's going on or if Dr. Jurati did something to the holograms program, because there's one point in this episode.
We're going to get into this later on. So
right. There's one point in this episode where they're looking for the hospitality hologram, and that guy doesn't show up. But anyway, so yeah, let's continue going through this scene. So you grabbed this screenshot of the shower scene for some reason.
I just thought this was really funny that they have an outside shower in a cool climate world. I thought that was really interesting.
It doesn't look that cold.
Well, no, it's not that cold, but the fact that their shower is an outside shower is really funny. I don't know, for some reason it struck me as really funny that they have an outside shower that is run by old-fashioned plumbing, which again is just really, really, really interesting.
It does seem like
country living side that comes, yes, they're country living that comes with a shield scan matrix.
Yeah, no, it does seem odd that some of the technology is like, it looks like they're just filming this in somebody's cabin, and like they didn't make any changes to make it look more futuristic. Like even if Riker is it's probably a budget thing for the show.
Oh no, we know that they're running on a shoestring budget on this one.
Like they I know like Star Trek had like sonic showers and things. So unless Riker has really gone out of his way to want the authentic like 19th or 20th century cabin living experience, it's yeah.
I thought it was.
I agree that it is kind of odd. Yeah.
I don't have anything against, like, almost everything on the planet itself was perfectly fine. It was a great episode. If you just condensed everything that happened on the planet down to a single episode, would be a great episode. But unfortunately, that's not what we're dealing with.
Someone asked earlier, was it Emeka? Who is more likable, Daj or Soji? And I would say Daj
Dodge
was.
for sure. Dodge for
Soji
sure.
is Soji's
Soji
just
is,
kind of being dumb for the first 6 episodes of this show.
yeah, she's kind of being an idiot.
So here is what is her name? Kestra? I think it's
Yeah,
Kestra, I believe.
yeah.
So she takes a liking to Soji right away.
Yep.
More
Just
shots.
of all the stories that they've told her about Data and all the funny things that they, no doubt, the memories that they shared, of pictures, videos, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think 100%. Probably, probably really. She's probably got like kind of some hero worship on, and as we see, sorry, hiccups. And as we see throughout the process of this episode, Picard's really terrible at comforting her and giving her what she needs. However, the little girl is really good at this and has this level of like, her mom Troy was always like way too formal for me. Would not have like held down a conversation with her, even when we see her like at these conventions, and I was tempted to like speak with her and talk with her, but she comes off as so formal even now, like even in her regular life, that it's a little daunting, right? It's a little daunting to meet her. And I think that why, her and Riker have gotten together so well, their kid is like this perfect amalgamation of like being able to emotionally connect with somebody, but at the same time doing it in a really friendly, warm way.
Yeah.
Again, really good casting for this actress, really good writing for this actress, and a very good combination of both of her parental combinations.
Yeah.
I think, I didn't like her in the first like minute. That first scene, I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna like this kid. This is gonna be another like really annoying, stupid kid to deal with. But then I was like, oh, hang on. This has been actually surprisingly has been really relatively good. So
She was good.
yeah,
I hope
she's
they bring her back.
yeah, yeah. I hope
Like
she.
I hope this
I
isn't
hope
her
she,
last appearance in the show. Maybe her and her dad show up later to like help Picard or something. But yeah, I agree. And yeah, presumably she's also got some empathic abilities because she'd be a quarter Betazoid. Yeah, more shots of the cabin. This really looks like I've been in houses that look exactly like this, and like are very similar. And so this kind of I had some friends who were farmers growing up, and so these kinds of houses I love them. Oh, okay, we're back on the ship now. And what are they doing here?
I didn't know this, but Kestra is the name of Troy's deceased sister as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
So that was very interesting. And also interesting is that Kestra's full name is Kestra Troy Riker.
Kestra
Riker
Troy
being
Riker.
a hyphenated word. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So, and and I gotta say, this is a character that I would like. Again, I am dying for Seth MacFarlane to get his hands on this show, and then for this girl
Enough
to
with the
end up
Seth
being
MacFarlane. God.
come in as a as a new main character, as like an ensign or something like that. Oh, be beautiful, brilliant. Make it so.
Okay,
Again,
what's going on in this scene here?
you still haven't watched that series, have you?
It's it could be the best show ever. Still, it's like every episode you bring up Seth MacFarlane needs to own Star Trek. It's like get off it. Okay, what's going on in this scene?
This is the scene where he's like, they let us go. Oh, or no, sorry, go back again. This is the scene where he's like, somebody's following us, and the previous shot to this was the dude was like literally behind him by like, I think that the filming department didn't tell the CGI department or the CGI department was told something other than what these guys were told, because he's like, I think we have a tail. The ship is literally behind them by what I would surmise is like less than a kilometer or a mile.
Yeah, it was really, really close in the
It was
visual shot of
essentially
it. Like it
riding
was,
their butt, and for whatever reason, they were both stopped.
and it
And the
wasn't
dude's
cloaked. Like it.
And he wasn't cloaked. The dude turns and goes, I think we have a tail. And they're like, oh, really? Who do you think it is? Oh, I don't know, but I think we're being followed. It's like you ever walk down, like, you're on like some desert road or something like that, and you're driving along, and you somebody's behind you for like, 4 hours, and then every time you stop, they stop, and every time you get going, they get going, and then you turn to your friend and you're like, I think we're being followed. It's like, no, really, you, sir, you win the Sherlock Holmes Award for deduction today. Amazing.
Yeah. And then you say, no, that's just Terry. He's following us to Bob's house. Don't you remember? Anyway, never mind. So yeah, I agreed that the shot that came before this, it's like the ships were super close together, and Narek's ship was not even cloaked, and it was like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay,
Really dumb.
we've got. Then he figures out, and this is why I say, when Rios can figure out that a cloaked ship is following them, like he's not a complete idiot. Sure, he's maybe not. He's a bit of a
cloaked.
The Romulan ship, Narek's ship, was cloaked or camouflaged in some way.
No, it wasn't.
Not visually, but they talk about it being hidden, and they try to ditch him several times, and then they figure out he's back. So
it wasn't cloaked. Again, this might have been an error between the two departments and somebody not getting the
when we see the ship,
the ship is sitting
cloaked
behind them uncloaked, and he's like, I think we're being followed. It's like, from the ship that you can look out the rear view mirror and see right there. Yeah, probably. I would imagine that's this whole
right. I'm saying I think that was a mistake. That's what I'm saying. I think it was a mistake. Because I think they anyway. So they realize they have this tail, and it is kind of weird. But again, Rios, not a complete idiot. Even if he doesn't account for every possible.
He's gonna really make you eat those words in a few minutes here. So keep going.
Well, okay. So, that's Riker's hand, right? He's like,
Riker meeting her. He's talking with her. He's not a Betazoid, but he basically deduces who she is in a moment's notice.
Well, right. Remember, the Betazoids are not telepaths; they're empaths. So there's no mind reading going on with Troy. She reads emotions, but Riker does do some amazing deduction here. Now, the head tilt thing, he recognizes Data's head tilt, which I wish they had made more prominent in previous episodes. I don't know if they ever did, and I just missed it. But when I saw her do the head tilt in this episode, I was like, you could see exactly what they were going for.
Yeah.
Like, and of course, so I'm just disappointed that this is the earliest point that it showed up. Unless like I said, I just missed it in previous episodes, but I don't recall ever seeing it. It was a nice little clue though. So yeah, the deduction scene, he figures out, without them saying anything, without Picard telling him anything, he figures out what Soji is, that there's Romulans after them, and a few other things, just based on his powers of deduction, which is it was a pretty fun scene, for sure. So yeah, Soji eating her first tomato. Again, it was really her arc in this episode was really awesome, and this whole real versus not being real, and am I real, and oh, this tomato's so good because it's real, it's grown from the ground, and it's not replicated. Real is better. And then, Troy, explained, well, real is not always better, but what is real? And like, what's a real tomato? What's the difference between a tomato that's grown in the ground or one that's replicated, right? Some really interesting questions you could dig deep into if you wanted to. If you took this tomato that grew from the ground and replicated an exact duplicate of it, from a molecular perspective, is one real and one not? And what would the difference be? How would you even tell? Yeah. So anyway, Soji and this and Troy have an interesting conversation here, and we hear the story of Riker and Troy's first child, who was a son who grew up on starships and invented a homeworld with a whole bunch of sounds like something out of one of my daughter's fantasy books. Just all these different creatures, and made up a whole bunch of languages for this world he invented because he wanted to have a homeworld. And was really like the lore in this episode, the lore behind the Rikers after the Riker Troys, I guess, after they left TNG, or after the Enterprise or the Next Generation movies were done, after they got married. They did a great job, I felt, building a history for them and their family. And it was definitely a sad story with their son getting this very, very rare disease. And then she explains that the disease was curable, but you needed to do something with an active positronic matrix, which was basically what Commander Data's brain was. But she said these no longer existed because of the synth ban. And so I actually had one friend who was like, does she blame Picard because of
No.
His actions leading to this, or indirectly leading to this synth ban? I don't think so either, but it was an interesting take on it. It was like, okay, so there's no more synths anymore. They're not allowed to create positronic matrices, but so the ban was on positronic matrices completely?
Yeah.
Like, could you not create one that...
Positronic matrices are the requirement for artificial synthetic life.
Yes.
They don't have a way of creating a positronic matrix without it. Like, it is.
You can't make a positronic matrix that doesn't have a consciousness or doesn't have a synthetic mind within it.
It's basically what you're asking is, hey, can we clone some gray matter? That's essentially what you're asking. You're creating a brain, a biological brain, by doing so.
Yes, but you can clone a bunch of... I mean, it's not just the fact that it's gray matter, though. It's how it's interconnected or what's going on.
You would need a fully functioning positronic matrix in order to replicate the cure, which means you'd have to have something that is or borderlines on a living AI. And by borderline living, I mean like it's like basically you'd have to, basically you're like, it would have an on switch and an off switch, and you'd have to do one of those things to like turn it on or off.
Well, I mean, I can buy that that's what's going on here. I don't know if I entirely buy that that's...
I'm looking
realistic,
looking at a bunch of wiki articles on this.
No, I believe that that's the case within the lore, but it's like you could have a functioning computer with no programs running on it, and unless you're saying they need those programs running in order to...
So what you're saying is why I brought up the gray matter thing. So basically, what you're suggesting, if the whole universe was reversed, is somebody's like, well, let's clone a human being, let's birth it, so it's like anywhere between a year to like 10 years old, and then we'll just keep it sedated, and then use its body to create a treatment, and then we'll just kill it after that. That's essentially what you're saying.
That is not even remotely what
No,
I'm
no, no.
saying.
That's
No,
what.
not even close.
Why
I'm
can't
not going to
we?
argue
Why,
with you, but you're not even close to what I was saying. You're making a
okay.
whole bunch of assumptions.
But you're like, why can't we? Why can't they make a positronic matrix that's just turned off? It's like, well, you have to make a positronic brain to get the result that you're looking for. So you'd have to have a creature that is capable of intellectual thought in it. Again, I'm just reading off the wiki, guys.
Yeah, you're
The
reading off the wiki.
Wikipedia.
No, what
The
I'm saying
Wikipedia says.
is, what I'm saying is that yes, this I agree that that is what the lore says. I'm just saying I don't. It's like the matter transporters. I don't know if I don't buy that those would work that the way they work in Star Trek in reality. But anyway, like, let's leave that behind and just accept it for what it is, because that's kind of what you have to do with Star Trek. So, yeah, this is where Picard really became he was kind of a jerk.
So it's the Alpha Memory fandom wiki. So yeah, it's might be a little bit off, but I mean this is like
I'm not
it's a
saying the
collection
wiki's
of
off. I'm not saying the wiki is off. I'm saying that the lore, like, I have trouble buying that lore, if you will, but it's a minor point in reality. So let's just move on. So yeah, so this is where Picard is kind of a jerk, because Soji is expressing how she feels like everything could be a deception.
He's not being a jerk. He's just being his regular old self.
Well, yeah,
Like,
he's being
whoa.
he's kind of sarcastic and crotchety, and
Well, but he's also using he's using essentially what is like reverse psychology, right? He's stating, "Oh yes, yeah, well obviously we're out to get you because we just spent we just risked our lives to save you. Therefore, we're obviously the ones that you can't trust." And he's saying that in somewhat of an exaggeratory, like, negative term, and it's reverse psychology, which is not what she needed at this moment. But again, I was having this conversation with somebody recently. It's like when somebody's going through like psychological trauma, you never really know what they need. You never really know exactly what kind of treatment is the best for them. He tried one thing that his gut told him to go with, and it was definitely the wrong way to go. But in this particular scenario, I don't actually think there was a correct way to go, because she just said that she wasn't responding well to Troy being warm and welcoming and kind. It made her trust her less, and if she had just been cold logic, that would have been better. But then Picard comes in, uses cold logic, and then she gets even more upset.
well,
So
she was saying
it's a
she couldn't
lose-lose
trust.
situation.
She was saying she was having a hard time trusting Troy, but I mean, like, she had just come through. How could you trust anything? I mean, she's probably in a place where she can't trust cold logic. She can't trust someone who's acting nice.
That's
And
what I'm saying is that because she couldn't trust anything in that moment. Everything is coming across to her like she's being used, and that's what she doesn't. That's the thing that she's running into. How you snap somebody out of this, I don't think that there's a direct way, because if everybody was nice and kind, it would only remind her more of what had the treachery that she just experienced, versus being cold logic, which is something that she immediately demanded. Then when somebody gave her cold logic, it upset her even more.
she didn't demand it, though. She didn't mention it at all. That's just kind of what Picard came up and was like, yeah, this, yeah.
by saying okay, again, I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but it's like she basically said, yeah, I don't trust anybody who's using warm comfort to me. And 2 seconds later, he walked up to her and used not warm comfort to her. So
Yeah, but those aren't the only two options. I mean, really, she needs time to process. Like, when your entire world is just traumatized like this, and this is why it seemed a little cold even for Picard. It's my opinion. It just seemed a little cold. But I do like Troy being like saying the "you had it coming" kind of a thing, because he did. He totally had it coming. So, anything more to say about this?
No. It's one of those things. Again, this was really fairly slow episode in a lot of ways. So, yeah. All right, moving on.
Yeah. Robin Green says, was it Locutus coming through? I don't know. I like to think, like, Picard, even though he doesn't know how to necessarily react in some of these situations, he's still a compassionate person. Like, he genuinely cares about people. He genuinely cares about Soji. And so, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think he just used a tactic that backfired on him.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. That's fair. Okay. All right,
so
back.
now
this
back to the Borg ship.
Yeah.
These two are walking down the hallway, talking about their plan to what to do in earshot of probably a half a dozen Romulans, because again, nobody knows how to write this stuff. The dudes spent the last, like, how many years? 15, from what we can more or less figure out. Maybe a little bit less, maybe more. We don't really know. Dealing with Romulans every single day. He's the Federation Enclave person on the thing. He's completely aware of how devious and despicable the Romulans can be, and he decides to openly talk about his plan in public and has no backup emergency plan for dealing with a Romulan assassination attempt on his life.
What are you talking about? He's got Elnor. Romulan Legolas. We'll save the day.
Again, it's just...
I was being sarcastic, yeah. I agree.
No ex-Borg should be this stupid. Again, and it really, and this is the thing that I mean, am I the only person that doesn't have a plan for literally every possibility of things that can happen? I'm starting to get the feeling that having a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan for a backup plan is not something that people do regularly, and it's a little disturbing. Like,
Well,
does
people
nobody...
I mean, some people are more obsessive about being prepared for every possible situation than others. Some people look at situations that are incredibly rare and probably never going to happen, like a zombie apocalypse, say, and think, why would I be prepared for that? Whereas others are like, I gotta be prepared for everything.
Well, now, I mean, let's be real. A zombie apocalypse is utterly and totally and completely ridiculous, because you can't reanimate the dead tissue cells and have blood flowing that provides the nutrients needed for limbs to function. That's just ridiculous. However, having a zombie-like plague happening, I mean, I've got at least like 24 plans for that. So I mean, where it's like a form of like rabies, or like the whole like World War Z type thing, or some like viral or biological, like the fungus that takes over the ants' bodies and makes them crazy. Like, I've got plans for all that stuff. But zombies, I mean, you're right. That's crazy and ridiculous. But zombie-like viruses, yeah. You got a half a dozen plans
Being
for
too
that.
obsessed with preparedness for some people consider that to be mentally unhealthy. Then again, this is you we're talking about. All right. Zombie rabies, that's a bad prognosis. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, it is kind of dumb that he's just talking about this out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but of course it's equally ridiculous that she is just happens to be there to hear him right as he's saying this. They're just waiting in a hallway. It's not like they're listening on some device from another part of the station. They're just like right there in the smoke. This whole scene was silly, and it really, really bugged me that they killed off Hugh.
Yeah, I was really kind of saddened by that. This does open the door to the XB needing to come in and get into the Queen's chamber, this does open the door to a certain other female ex-Borg that we know of. Very interesting. I wonder. So very, very interesting.
It could open that door. Not that there aren't hundreds of them on the cube, but
Yeah, there's
yeah.
literally thousands of them on the cube, but it would just be very, very interesting from a plot perspective if it turns out that a particular female ex-Borg ends up getting access to the Queen's chamber on a ship that she was actually designed for. Oh, so interesting. I swear, if this goes the way I'm thinking, this might actually just like restore my faith in the show in general. Um, if we have Seven of Nine walk into the Borg Queen thing and basically take over the entire Borg cube, and then turn the cube against the Romulans, that would be extraordinarily funny and very, very cool.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Would be very awesome because again, I don't know how many people know this, but Seven of Nine was she was one of the primary candidates for replacing of the Queen. So she was in fact, they put her on Voyager so that she would learn more about individuality and more how to deal with individuals, so that she would assimilate that knowledge. Then their plan was the whole time to re-assimilate her at some point once she had gained that information, and then she would be able to become an even more effective member against fighting the Federation and some of these other things. So this is very interesting. um, and I really like it. I do not like how they killed Hugh though. The dude's sitting there like, yeah, it's sneaky. She Romulan Cersei was definitely very, very, very smart at maneuvering the fight into a position in which she could kill him. How he died by having a, what appeared to be about maybe 6 or 7 like millimeters of a small, tiny little blade. Maybe there was some poison, something. I guess I'm really starting to get annoyed with these deaths in Star Trek. It's like, hey, we can resuscitate somebody who's been dead for 17 days, or 17 hours. We can resuscitate somebody who's been dead for 17 hours. But for some reason, we can't fix a gash on a dude's neck. He just dies immediately. Now, again, yeah, he didn't have any like health thingies, but it's just, it's frustrating. And I did not like this scene. I did not like the way that this whole played out. Yeah, didn't like it. Was not happy with it. So whatever. Next.
It's just disappointing because he's like, it was really cool that they brought him back, and now that he's just out of the picture,
I really wanted him to be around for like the next couple of seasons, because I think that he was a character who, and he was, I mean, his acting was on point, his character was on point. I think everything about him was decent. He was a smart guy. I would have loved to have seen him play as a companion type character, not relationship wise, but like just having Seven of Nine and Hugh in the same room or on the same ship for a season or two would have been. I think there was a lot of depth there, and I think they're killing people off because they're running out of. Because they, I suspect that the first season's kind of going to be okay, and then the second season's either going to have to bring in a whole lot of new people or something, because they keep killing people off. And again, I would have been okay with them killing off either Hugh or Egypt, not both. And now they killed off both, and now I'm kind of peed off a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So yeah, but yeah, okay, yeah.
So, Raffi is trying to comfort Dr. Girardi here and giving her cake and chocolate milk, and it's kind of a boring scene. But then
Yeah, and she gets upset and she throws up, and it's again kind of gross. Now back to the cool bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a very interesting conversation. People are starting to like, you know, this conversation flowed really nicely here. The pizza was definitely getting cold on their plates. I just need to point that out.
That's what happens when you're
Like
filming for.
they filmed so he cooked the pizza while the sun was still up. Now the sun has definitely been down for quite a while, and they're
We don't
now
know how
sitting around the
fast the
table
sun
and
sets
eating.
on this planet, but
So I mean, just to me, I feel as if, um, uh-oh, that didn't sound healthy. It's fine. Okay, so yeah, I really just generally speaking, uh, kind of thought that that was a little funny, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I don't give them negative marks for that. They're doing this kind of stuff. The scene flowed well. I like the candles on the table. I like the whole setup. I like the back and forth that they had. How she explained stuff. She really opened herself up, talking about how, you know, how this guy had used her, and then the conversation actually like flowed really well. It's nice that that Riker actually put her next to his daughter because they, again, she's a loose cannon. She could go off at any minute. She could explode in fiery rage and kill everybody at the table. But, instead of Riker, knowing about that and being, pensive about that, he just embraces the fact that she needs a hand, and so he treats her with respect.
well,
And I was expecting her to be. I was expecting him at first. Logically, I was thinking that he might be antagonistic towards her, but the episode showed that he was not, and that he actually has a very, very, very good. Uh, is a very good interaction
mm-hmm.
with not only her but with his own kid, and whatnot. And yeah, just generally speaking, I thought that again this shows like actual character development on Riker's part, and actually shows a logical consistency of intellect and intelligence from everybody involved. So yeah, I would
Yeah, it was.
really like this the scene, this
He
episode,
knows
this
data. Like
particular
he knew
scene.
data too. So I mean,
Hmm.
he is probably more comfortable with androids than
Yeah,
most. Shua82 says that's how you really let the flavor come out. You let it sit at room temperature for a few hours. Yeah.
yeah. I think yeah,
Nepenthe style pizza, cold and aged. Yeah, exactly.
golden age. Maybe. All good points. All good
Yeah.
points.
All right.
All right.
So yes, they have an interesting conversation, and then this captain that they talk about at the nearby spaceport. He sounds like an interesting character.
Yeah, he
I wonder
does,
if
and I
he'll
was
pop up at
expecting
some
him.
point.
I was honestly like, dude, I confess, after this next scene with Riaz, I was like, I hope they replace Riaz with this new, better, like older pilot who's like this old backwater guy who's like, yeah, I got this crazy ship, but at least it works, and at least I'm not a total idiot, unlike that other dude. And I was like, yeah, let's get to. Oh, this is gonna be so awesome. But it appears as if that was a pipe dream. So yeah,
Well, he could show up at some point. The fact that they mentioned his name so many
mm-hmm.
times, it almost hints like he's going to make an appearance at some point, but maybe not. Shua says Barkley changed his name and is hiding out. Yeah, that would be funny.
That would be really, really, really funny. That would be really, really funny.
Yeah, so she asks, she's like texting at the table, like a
Yeah.
typical kid, and she asks this captain friend about the planet with the two red moons and the electrical storms, and is able to
And the
figure out
one guy
where it is. So now they know
knows
where to
it.
go.
Yeah.
All right.
Smart kid.
So Girardi figures out. Well, she realizes that the Narek is
So
tracking
so
her.
So first of all, I didn't clip this particular thing because I was so annoyed with it. I couldn't physically bring myself to go back over this scene. So Riaz comes down and he's talking to her and he's like, "I think we have a mole on the ship," and she's like, "I know we have a mole on the ship." He's like, "Yeah, I think it's I think it's the person upstairs, and we gotta come together on this because where did she go? She was on that planet, and she said goodbye forever, but then she came back to the ship, and and uh and she's probably the spy because, like, she's probably the spy. Meanwhile, the girl's like, she knows it's her. She's trying to say that it's her, and so whatever. He runs up because the Narek's back again. Um, so he runs up there to take care of stuff. She creates this thing that's going to rid her body of the particular tracking mechanism that they have. Unfortunately, it's probably going to kill her at the same time. So she
Yeah.
does it, and then she gets up her courage and she ejects herself with this stuff and falls down. Then he runs down, like, he's upstairs. I don't know if you get that scene in the next one. Yeah. So he no.
The next one's Narek.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. She does this. She disappears from sensors. Narek gets all peeved off because she's gone from his sensors. He's like, "How did she go? Oh no!" And so yeah, next scene is she's passed out on the table. But there was another scene between this two where he's sitting up there and he's looking over at Raffi, going, "Raffi, I don't think I can trust you. Not anymore. Somebody's been giving our," and it's like, dude.
Well, he didn't say that. I mean, obviously
His face said that, and he did ask.
Well, she was
No,
like,
he
yeah,
said
does it involve
he
shooting
said
me
a
out an
few
airlock?
things.
And he said,
Maybe.
I certainly hope not.
Very, very, like, I suspect that you're the person who's been giving our location away because I'm a completely inept officer who doesn't know how to do a scan on, somebody who's emitting a signal.
Well, it's reasonable that there are. I mean, if trackers were obvious, like if a simple scan could pick up a tracker when you don't know, like, the frequency of it or anything like that, then it wouldn't be a very good tracker. Like, I have no trouble buying that there are trackers on people, that especially that Starfleet could have access to, that would be very difficult to detect. But secondly, it's not an unreasonable theory what he's proposing about something having been planted on Raffi while they were on Free Cloud. And whereas Dr. Jurati, she arrived with Picard and hasn't left the ship, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she's been on the ship the entire time, if I recall correctly. And and since she came with Picard, he'd have less reason to suspect her. But and he doesn't assume that Raffi is, like, in on it, but he thinks something might have been planted on her without her knowledge. But it was weird that she's like, goodbye forever, I'm leaving, and then she's back on the ship again. It's not an unreasonable theory at all, even though it's wrong.
Yeah. So anyways, I was like, okay, whatever. It's just like, I can't get over how stupid this guy runs his ship.
The chewable tracker from O. We did talk about that briefly at the beginning. It was near the beginning. I don't know if you had joined the chat yet.
Yeah, we mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, moving on.
We got Das Gegenmittel says he agrees with you, Saib, here. The best scene was as they noticed they were getting tracked and the other ship was in plain view range. Yeah, there was so much wrong with that shot. Which is why I think it must have been a mistake. There must have been a mistake made somewhere. Because, not only... like, you could just look out your back window and see the other ship. So... so anyway, Dr. Jurati is now in a coma because of this stuff she injected herself with. The EMH finally decides to activate. Why is that there? Hold on. The EMH finally decides to activate, notifies Rios that Jurati's in a coma. I have a feeling that in the next episode, they're going to figure out that Jurati was responsible for Maddox's death. So this thing Elnor has, what is this?
So this is the This is the help thing that Seven gave to Picard. It's like press this anywhere in the system and it will activate and it'll let you know
Oh,
that
right. So,
let us know that you are in need of help.
and how did it end
So
up here? I guess I'm.
I don't know how it ended up here. I think it may have. I think Picard was maybe wearing it and it came off of him during the struggle and the thing, and it just was hanging where he could see it. So he moved over and he picked it up. He realized what it was and he pressed it to activate it. So now he's got the cavalry coming.
Yeah, like the Captain Marvel pager, says Robin Green. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's the send help. I'm in trouble. Send help. I'm in trouble thing. And yeah, this
so
is
this lends credence to your theory that 709 is gonna come back and possibly
yeah.
be, be able to access the Queen's chamber there and do some cool stuff against the Romulans. So Picard and Riker, another good scene, another good conversation.
Yeah, this was a really healthy scene where again he kind of goes back and forth, and I really like it. I was
The stuff
generally impressed
between,
by it.
I liked the stuff between Picard and Riker, and I liked that, they don't have their ranks sort of dictating the relationship anymore. So, um, Riker can speak more freely, but he still obviously has a ton of respect for Picard, and there's a friendship there. I never realized how much smaller Picard is than Riker. You
Yeah,
see it
that
here on the bench scene.
yeah, and this is why I took this picture and then the other picture with them meeting the first time. It's like the size difference. They were Riker was always a little bit taller than the captain, um, but you now see how old and how frail like Picard has become. And this is a scene that really kind of like puts it out. Like Riker's got his legs like extended out, touching the ground. Picard could barely sit on that thing. He's getting old, and he probably has a good he's lived a relatively healthy life. I mean, he probably might get another. He could even go another 20 years. Um, but he's old. He is old and he is frail, and it's one of the things that really puts an effect on this. Uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then Riker's bulked up a little bit,
Yep.
which is fine, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, he doesn't look bad. I think he looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Final scene or not final scene, but kind of a goodbye scene between Kestra and Soji here. And, she gives him her compass from the beginning of the episode. And I have to feel like that's going to come into play somehow, in some way.
Here's something else that I have never ever seen in Star Trek before. She's wearing a shirt that has a word on it, like a regular old like kids shirt with like some cool like saying or thing. This one says Hitchumly. I don't
Huh.
know what that means, but that's really something that again we've never really seen before. So another first, I was like, now we got sunglasses, now we got a T-shirt. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
that's
kind
pretty
of kind
darn
of the
cool. All
well,
right.
that is one of the interesting aspects of this show is like we're not confined by the the hull of a
To the,
starship
the
here, so
the
we're
yeah.
seeing more aspects of human culture, I guess, that exist in the universe that we didn't see in some of the other shows that are just centered around a ship, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And a final shot of another of this rock formation again, and yeah, all in all, really good episode. In my opinion, I agree. I mean, there was some wonkiness to it, as with most of the episodes in this series. There's definitely been a
Hmm.
lot of plot convenience and a lot of you know things that are not that are just like, wow, that was convenient, or that doesn't make any sense. But what they did with the characters and everything
Yeah.
that happened on Nepenthe here in this episode was really good in my opinion. It gets that was supposed to be off. It gets,
Lol.
I gave it 4 out of 5 Picards, and then also I'm gonna give it a skeptical Riker, just because Riker was in the episode. So there you go.
2.5 laughing datas for me, or just 2 if you don't have the half. And then 1 like face palming Picard.
I'll give you. I'll do the 3 plus then the face palming Picard.
Because I
Subtract
was
a half.
I was horrified at most of the stuff that happened off this world. It was really, really disturbing stupidity and incompetence that just seems. And I mean, Picard even mentions it. He's like, well, I've got a ship. It's full of a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing and who are constantly like being engulfed in their own drama. Which, I mean, I can't blame them for, and apparently it's been nothing but drama since I left. And I was like, thank you, Picard. That completely, completely emphasized the entire episode for me in one clear and concise word. Everything on the planet was, I think, marvelous and definitely deserved, um, for what the show is, again, for the storyline, for what it is, 100%. Really appreciated what they did. Just couldn't get over the stupidity of everything that happened off the ship again, because, I'm really disliking the, not because she's a bad character, badly acted. I think she's a fine actress, and I think she's acting her role extraordinarily well. But the Romulan Cersei is just, I mean, evil Cersei was not a character I really was anticipating or wanting to see again, and the fact that she's here throwing it down your throat. It's kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
great, awesome.
she's full of cliches, and I hate cliched characters.
Yeah,
She's probably my least favorite character in the show. My least favorite of the recurring main characters.
yeah, and again, not because she's a bad actress, not because her role wasn't written
No, it's
well.
the character
It's
that's.
written marginally, like relatively well for what it is, but it is a character that I've just seen too much of, and it's like it's just I'm not impressed with the storyline involving her. I think the whole thing is kind of ridiculous considering that, oh, look, she's been a spy in the highest echelons of the Federation for apparently, like, again, I can't get over this. I can't get over this. They just fought a war where they fought against the people who could mimic the everything to the to there's no better infiltrators in the galaxy than these people. And somehow, for some reason, this mentally deficient Starfleet has just not had the ability to like check for moles, which is shockingly bad. But overall, because most of the action was on the planet, I think it was a good episode. Because again, I really, Riker and Troy came off as an absolute power couple in this episode, and this was one of the things that I was honestly really afraid that they were going to screw up, but I'm happy to say they did not screw it up. This is really good work on the writer's part to bring those two back for at least a little bit. Hopefully we see more of them. I would love to see Riker run his own ship. I like this Riker. I wasn't a fan of Riker back in TNG, but this Riker I like. I would love to see this Riker run a ship. I think that would be brilliant. So,
All right. And that's about all we have. So thank you
yep.
for joining us for the show today. Thank you for the comments in the chat and the good conversation there. Don't forget to slam that like button if you appreciate this content. We'll be back next Monday. We're moving them to Mondays. We'll be back next Monday with the next Picard review show. Just a few episodes left, so we'll finish out the season. And hope you join us.
That's it.
Yep, just 3. So we hope you join us then, and we will talk to you again very soon.